everyone, and thank you for being here. Today, I'll be walking you through the Strategic Acceleration Plan for Healio. This plan focuses on three major areas: the expedited FDA pathways available to us, our survival plan moving forward, and the action timeline that ties everything together. This work was prepared by Bella and myself, and I'll be presenting our findings and recommendations today. I just want to set the stage and explain our situation right now, and explain why speed is absolutely critical for Healio. The company is only weeks away from defaulting on major loans, and investors are applying for significant pressure for rapid progress. Under normal circumstances, medical development and approval take years, but we simply do not have that kind of time. Because our cash runway is so limited, pursuing standard FDA pathways would delay revenue for far beyond what the company can sustain. That's why today's plan focuses heavily on accelerated FDA pathways, because they're not just beneficial, they're essential for Healio's survival. Now, moving into our first accelerated pathway is Fast Track. The FDA defines Fast Track as a process that helps speed the development and review of drugs that treat serious conditions and address unmet medical needs. For Healio, this pathway is especially critical because faster review directly reduces trial delays, and that means a lower R&D burn rate at a time when the company is close to insolvency or default. Our recommendation is to act immediately. We propose submitting fast track requests for all three drugs within the next 14 days. At the same time, we should begin preparing for necessary CMC documentation so we're ready for rolling submissions within 30 days. The key point here is that fast track gives Healio both time and financial relief, which are essential for survival. Next is what is called breakthrough therapy, and this is a specific pathway that the FDA offers. It is a tool that allows us to have greater acceleration than fast track. The FDA grants breakthrough designation when early clinical evidence shows that a drug may offer substantial improvement for existing or over existing therapies. For Healio, the impact is significant. This pathway allows phase 2 and 3 trials to overlap, and it also provides intensive hands-on FDA guidance throughout development. Together, these advantages can shorten the overall timeline by an estimated 12 to 18 months, which is critical given our financial constraints. Our proposed action is straightforward. First, we need to identify the strongest lead candidate based on the early data we have. Then we move to submit a breakthrough therapy request within the next 30 to 60 days. After that, we'll adapt our phase 2 and phase 3 protocols according to the FDA's feedback to fully take advantage of the accelerated structure. Overall, this pathway represents one of the fastest routes to meaningful clinical progress for Healio. Now I'm going to talk about priority review and what that strategy entails. Priority review is granted when a drug has the potential to provide significant improvements in safety or effectiveness. Under this pathway, the FDA shortens its review timeline from the standard 10 months down to just 6 months. For Healio, that's 40% reduction in review time directly, which translates to a faster market entry and quicker revenue. To prepare for this, our plan focuses on two key actions. First, we'll organize all NDA materials, that's the new drug application, and so that they're ready for rolling submission. That ensures the FDA can begin reviewing sections as soon as they're completed. Second, we'll make sure that our manufacturing operations are fully prepared for early FDA inspections within the next 90 days, since priority review typically accelerates those steps as well. Overall, securing priority review positions us to shorten the final phase of approval and get to the market as fast as possible. And then accelerated approval. This is another strategy that allows the FDA to approve a drug based on what's called a surrogate endpoint, essentially an early indicator that reliably predicts clinical benefit. As Anderson 2024 explains, this pathway is designed for situations where waiting for full clinical outcomes would take too long, especially when patients have significant unmet needs. For Healio, using validated surrogate markers, such as the percentage of weight loss, could allow us to reach the market 12 to 24 months earlier than the traditional pathway. That difference is critical for both patients and the company's financial survival. To execute this, we'll define the surrogate endpoints for our lead candidates and prepare the justification materials within the next 30 days. These will be bundled into our fast-track and breakthrough therapy submissions so that the FDA can review everything together. Overall, accelerated approval gives us one of the strongest opportunities to shorten development while still meeting FDA standards for scientific evidence. And to show why these expedited pathways matter so much, here's how they directly compress clinical development timelines. Under the standard FDA timeline, phase 1 typically takes about a year, phase 2 can take up to 2 years, and phase 3 can be about 3 years or more. And for a company in Healio's financial position, those durations simply aren't survivable. Fast Track gives us our first major advantage. It reduces back and forth delays with the FDA and helps us avoid costly design errors that could force trial restarts and practice that saves between 6 and 12 months. Breakthrough therapy accelerates things even further because it allows phase 2 and phase 3 to overlap. We can cut as much as 12 to 18 months off the total timeline. And finally, accelerated approval paired with priority review shortens the post-trial regulatory window. Instead of waiting almost a year for final FDA action, we can reduce that by an additional 6 to 12 months. Taken together, these pathways don't just speed up development, they potentially cut years of the process, which is essential for generating revenue before Healio's cash runway expires. And then in this graph here, I'm going to put a little pointer out. So this graph here kind of goes over special FDA approval between the years 2003 and 2022. And this, like, the y-axis is showing, like, the percentage of FDA approved drugs, and then over here kind of shows which ones, like, what the lines stand for. And so as we can see, priority review has had one of the highest, like, approved drug rates. Like, that's one that's been used to get these drugs approved, and by this graph we can see that it's significantly faster than the other ones. So that would be one of our main points, like, recommendations to get these drugs on the market faster. And then for our action timeline, we have to start, like, it's immediate, 0 to 30 days. We will submit fast track requests for all 3 drugs, aiming for a 14-day turnaround. At the same time, we'll bring in regulatory consultants and finalize the surrogate endpoints needed for accelerated approval. Next, in the short term, over the next 1 to 6 months, we'll submit a breakthrough therapy request for our lead candidate and begin rolling NDA submissions. We'll also launch pre-approval marketing, start prescriber outreach, and secure short-term bridge financings to keep development moving. Finally, in the long term, 6 months and beyond, including post-approval, we'll file the full NDA with priority review. As soon as approval comes through, we'll scale manufacturing and distribution immediately. And then we'll continue phase 4 studies while early revenue helps stabilize cash flow. That's a full roadmap for rapid regulatory action to commercialization and post-approval stability. Now I'll walk through what these accelerated pathways mean for each major department, because the success of this plan depends on coordinated action across the organization. Starting with finance, we need immediate allocation of funds for PDUFA fees, and this stands for Prescription Drug User Act. Basically what that is the federal law allows FDA to collect user fees to supplement its funding, helping the agency protect public health and speed access to innovative products while maintaining scientific and regulatory standards. So we have to pay fees in order to get our drugs onto the market. So these fees and regulatory consultants, since these costs will come early in the process, they need to be allocated for. Finance will also need to model short-term bridge financing to carry Healio through the next 3 to 6 months. The return on this investment is straightforward. Faster approval means a shorter cash flow gap and reduces the risk of default. Next is human resources, or HR. To execute accelerated timelines, we'll need to bring in 3 to 5 additional regulatory and clinical operations specialists within the next 30 days. Using contractors will help us avoid long-term payroll strain. HR will also implement weekly cross-functional checkpoints to make sure nothing becomes a bottleneck. Marketing will also play an early role. They should begin disease awareness campaigns now and start preparing prescriber education materials. Once fast track or breakthrough designations are granted, we can position our products using those labels to build credibility. Early payer engagement will also be essential to reduce delays in formulary access after approval. And finally, operations and manufacturing. Manufacturing validation and quality assurance audits must begin immediately so we are inspection ready well before NDA submission. We also need to confirm that our supply chain contracts allow rapid scale up once approval is granted, since accelerated operations are usually prepared for. Overall, each department has a critical role in ensuring the accelerated pathways actually translate into faster market entry and earlier revenue. And before we end, I just want to emphasize the urgency on our plan. Healio must act immediately. At this point, speed is the means to survival. The company is only weeks away from default, and every day of delay increases both financial risk and investor pressure. By using FDA expedited pathways, we can dramatically shorten the timeline from drug development to revenue. Fast track, breakthrough therapy, accelerated approval, and priority review work together to reduce delays, avoid costly trial redesigns, and move our weight loss drugs through the system as quickly as possible. These combined steps cut R&D costs, speed up clinical progress, and accelerate Healio's ability to get its first product on the market. That speed is essential for generating early revenue. If Healio follows this strategy, the company could stabilize cash flow, rebuild investor confidence, and ultimately prevent bankruptcy. Our team strongly recommends taking immediate submission actions, completing the critical hiring and readiness steps within the next 0 to 30 days, and using rolling review to keep the approval process moving without interruption. With this approach, Healio gives itself the best possible chance to survive and compete. And then this is just our reference page. Thank you.